In this video, we will improve on the process of calculating streaming royalties, except this time we'll use or introduce functions. Functions are like creating your own verbs. For example, if you hear the verb add or the word add used as a verb, you know you're going to take two operands or two numbers and add them together. In programming, you can create your own verbs. Therefore, you could do something simple such as adding or multiplying two different operands or numbers or variables, or you could do something much more complex and you don't have to repeat yourself. So once you create a function, you can call it multiple times. For example, you know what to do if you hear the command add 2 plus 3. In this situation, a function is a reusable part of a program. This makes functions a wonderful addition to improving our current calculation of royalty payouts. In other words, the goal is to minimize repetition. So, it would be better if we demonstrate what's going on. So, go to your browser, type in about : blank, and then press Ctrl-Shift-I, like we've been doing in the past, to open up the browser console or the web console. Now let's create a function in JavaScript. So you will see three different versions of essentially the same calculator, but as we move on to version 2 and 3, you'll see them become more and more efficient. So the first version, we type function royalty calc. Well, I'll spell out the whole thing. Calculator version 1. Next, we will insert a parameter. From there, so you have a parameter. The parameters go inside of the parentheses. And then you have your curly braces, and we'll add a little space. Let royalty rate equal 0.0025, and now we have a royalty rate of 0.0025. That's a variable which we'll use, and then we'll create another variable called royalty. We'll just call it payout is equal to 0.0. Next, we'll type payout is equal to number of streams times royalty rate. Next, we want to output the information. So console.log, and then we'll output the royalty payout is, and we use the plus sign to connect the string royalty payout, the royalty payout is, to this variable. and we just type payout. So if you recall from the previous video, this essentially is similar to what we were using before, except we had another section, another line. So we used to have a let number of streams is equal to 0.0 to start off. But the benefits of doing it this way is once we create this function, we can actually change the number of streams, the parameter. So we'll hit enter. Now we have a function created. So all you have to do to call the calculator is type royalty calculator, and then you just, as you can see down here, you're going to insert the number of streams. So number of streams is equal to 400, and we should get a calculation. And so the royalty payout is $1. The beauty of functions are we could use them over and over again. Royalty calculator version 1, let's say 800 music streams. The royalty payout is $2. Royalty calculator version 1, 1200. The royalty payout is 3. And let's do one more. Royalty payout 8. I think that's 800 million, but let's just find out. Yes, 2 million. $2 million. So now the only problem, or not really a problem, is this function could be more efficient because we have number of streams and we have a variable of royalty rate and we have the payout. So let's try to make it more efficient. I'll type console.clear to clear the page. Okay, so the next version is function we'll call it function royalty calculator version 2. So in this version, we use number of streams and royalty rate. So now we'll add a little space and we'll go a little bit faster now, but let payout equal to 0.0, and we'll type payout is equal to number of streams times royalty rate. Next, let's output the information. Console log is equal to our console log, and we'll insert the royalty rate is payout plus payout or concatenate payout. So if you'll notice, this version is a little bit shorter because we only have payout as an internal variable, And we have number of streams as a parameter as well as royalty rate. So this is a little bit more efficient, but let's create this function once we press enter. So royalty rate version 2, except this time around we have two parameters. So we need to assign two numbers this time. So let's just say 400 is the number of streams, and the royalty rate is 0.0025. Let's see what happens. The royalty rate is 1. Let's do it again, but let's change the number of streams, to 800. And then we get the royalty rate is 2. So we've created another calculator, or a function that calculates the payout, the royalty payout. So let's try two more examples. Royalty calculator version 2. We'll do 1200, comma 0.0025. And for our last example, we do royalty rate calculator version 2, or V2. Let's try 800. $800 million, or at least that's what it looks like. And let's type 0.5. So that's 50 cents. So this should be 400 million. So why is it 400 million? Because we changed the royalty rate. This is the equation that we're using. So if you change the royalty rate, the number will change. Also, so let's do it like we previously were doing, with the royalty rate being more realistic. Version 2. So let's do 800 million, comma 0.0025. These are the numbers we normally have been using. We should get 2 million. And as you can see, you get oh wait, it's 200,000. Oh, I made a mistake. This is 80 million. That's why you get 200,000. So let's go back to royalty rate, our royalty calculator, version 2, 800, 000, 000, and we do 0.0025, and then you should get 2 million. And you get 2 million. So in our last example, let's make the function a little bit more efficient. Or there are multiple ways to do it, but we'll end with this final example. Oops. Okay, so let's create a function, and we'll call it royalty calculator v3. And then we'll have number of streams, comma, royalty rate. Then we'll create the function, or the instructions inside of the function. And we'll just say console.log is equal to, or not equal to, but inside the console log we'll output the payout is, and then we concatenate with the following. we'll just put the calculation inside of the console log. So we'll just take number of streams times rate. And this essentially does what we were previously doing, except we just consolidated everything to one line. Console log, the payout is number of streams times rate. So, times royalty rate. Number of streams. So, whatever number this is, when you create the function, or when you call the function, you multiply it by the royalty rate. So, in essence, you could consider number of streams times payout, number of streams times royalty rate. Since it's the payout, it's not necessary to repeat or create a function for it, or create a separate variable for payout. Pressing enter, let's do royalty calculator version 3, and let's do the same numbers we've been doing before. We've been using before, 0.0025, and we should get 1. The payout is 1. Royalty calculator version 3, 800, comma 0.0025. Royalty calculator, and then we're going to insert the number of streams. This time let's do our 800 million number, and 0.0025. So, and when we press enter, you should get 2 million. So the payout is 2 million. And let's, for old time's sake, let's do royalty calculator V3 4,512,000, or excuse me, 4,512,000, and then we'll multiply it by, or we insert the royalty rate as the second assignment, and then we get $11,280. So we could create another function, or in a few other ways. So really it's up to the individual. So even though we have a few different versions of calculators, you have royalty calculator version 1, and you just give it the number of streams. So let's say 400. Now, even though it's a bigger function, if your royalty rate isn't going to change, this one might be more convenient, so you don't have to keep typing in the royalty rate. With royalty calculator version 2, you have the ability to change the royalty rate. So let's say a new streaming service comes along and it offers 0, let's say 75. And then you get 3. you get $3. Therefore, so royalty calculator version 2 is better for selecting different royalty rates because the 0.0025 number, as we stated earlier, is just the average between two popular streaming services. So let's look at royalty calculator version 3, and essentially it's just a shorter version of version 2. You can change the rate. So let's say, for example, you get a penny for every stream. Let's see how much is provided. Should be 4. And there you have it, $4. This concludes our video on functions and their benefits in programming. Our next video will discuss object literals in JavaScript.